Hi, and welcome back to Daniel's Security Academy. Today, we are going to talk about the CISSP certification, my personal opinion, and tips and tricks and recommendations to pass the CISSP. So, let's get started. About the CISSP, it's one of the most relevant general security certifications out in the industry, and it is somewhat comparable to the CISM, for example, which is just from a different association, the ISACA, ISAHCA, and the CISSP is from ISC Square. So it's just a different association, but those two certifications are very comparable to each other from the type of questions or the content they are asking you during the exam and for the certification in general. And they're considered to be like equally on the same level. You need to fulfill several requirements to be able to do the CISSP certification with having the CISSP certificate in the end. So you can take the certification if you're not eligible yet, but you will not be granted the status of a CISSP. You will become an associate of ISC Square, I believe it's called, and in the upcoming 6 years, then you have the chance to fulfill all the requirements you need for the CISSP. So you can do the certification also when you're not eligible yet, just like as a heads up already. But yeah, to be an actual CISSP after the exam, you need to have worked in 2 or more of the 8 domains of the CISSP. You need 5 years of paid work experience in the industry, in the security industry, in 2 of or more of those 8 domains. And a college degree or certain other certifications, for example, if you already have the CISM, this will reduce the years of experience you need from 5 years to 4 years. So let's say you have a bachelor degree in IT, IT security, or anywhere around this space, computer engineering, computer science, for example. You only need to prove 4 years, but still you need to prove 2 out of 8 domains at least to be eligible for the CISSP. These requirements might sound to you random, but those are supposed to like defend the integrity of the certification and the CISSP brand, and is supposed to give everyone who sees that you have a CISSP that you have some certain standards of quality or knowledge already. So it is like to save the integrity of the entire certification, you could say. That's why the requirements are in place. And apart from doing the certification in general, you also need to do continuous learning to keep your certification. So you do not need to pass the exam every 2-3 years, like for example you have to do for vendor certifications. No, you have to do continuous learning. So you need to prove 120 CPEs, let's call it units, of, let's say, special work projects, maybe work in the education field. Maybe you did some surveys of ISC Square. You are in one of the committees of ISC Square. You work on the exam. You translate the exam. There's so many areas where you can actually get units or CPEs for your CISSP. But yeah, it's up to you how you can gather the 120 units in 3 years. So you are supposed to get like 40 units per year to have like a continuous learning path, but I don't think it's an actual requirement per year to do like 40, because I believe like in my first year I already did like 70, and the second year I did like 30, and now my third year I did the remaining 20. units. So I believe it's not like a straight thing. And the only downside of this certification is that you have to pay a yearly member fee, which is, I believe, $125 per year. But if you work in the industry with a consulting company, they most often will pay you the member fee for the certification, or to keep the certification up, because the CISSP is a very important certification also for the companies. Let's move over to the opinion. So my personal opinion about the CISSP. I personally think it is the best certification I took so far. It is the most relevant you're gonna see in the general IT security business. So I cannot speak about the CISM because I didn't take it. Maybe it's even better than the CISSP. But from what I've seen is that the CISSP is actually taking care about that you prove the knowledge in a broad range of IT field connected with security. And that's what makes it a very good certification. So you do not learn just pinpoints of an area. For example, if you go do a Cisco certification, let's say you do a CCNP routing and switching, you know a lot about routing and switching, but this is just one part of networking. And for the CISSP, of course, the comparison lags a little bit because it's a different field. However, the CISSP gives you a very broad space of what you have to learn, and you need to go ahead of what you already know. So if you in the way you see stuff just more mature, because you know what is on the other side of the fence, because you have seen your area, you're pretty good at this area, but you also want to see the other side of the fence. Why does someone in identity and access management require you, for example, to meet certain standards or meet certain protocols? So you just, as I already stressed it out, you gonna expand your knowledge and your the field of experience pretty much. And another thing which ties into this is it is not a week-long engagement where you just memorize questions and answers, and you just go into the exam with doing 2 brain dumps and just pass an exam without any problem. No, it's an actual studying required, because there is so much content in the CISSP. For sure, I've heard people doing the brain dump version also for CISSP and did pretty good on the exam. For sure, this will also work, but it does not work as easy as it does for let's say the vendor certifications. For example, I did the AZ700. I did a video about this one as well. Maybe check it out if you're interested in the Azure space. But this is a week-long engagement. It took me a week to learn the content, do some brain dumps, and out of the brain dumps, I was able to answer so many questions already. And this does not happen with the CISSP, which gives definitely a more credibility and integrity to the entire certification, because it's just not memorizing stuff, because you need to learn things. And this, as I already said, it gives credibility and integrity. It does also give those kind of credibility to externals or customers when they ask you about your experience in a special field. So you can prove, okay, I do know about security, at least the broad general terms. For sure, the CISSP doesn't go into detail. I will not tell you everything about every domain. No, it will give you very broad knowledge. So this will give you a lot of credibility. And on the other hand, also, if you want to maybe go ahead and get the next job, want to do like the jump to the next level, the CISSP is very often required, or let's see, optionally or recommended for good jobs or comparable certifications, also CISM, for example. But those certifications are or might be a door opener to new jobs and better jobs, actually, like architect jobs. Okay, let's move over to the recommendations. What kind of recommendations and tips I can give you for the exam and for the certification to pass more easily? First thing is take your time to walk through the material. Do not just rush through it and expect yourself to finish in a week. Give yourself time. Like if you're using, if you like to use books, for example, go ahead and buy the official guide and book from the IC Square for the CISSP certification, or even external books. If you like using videos, for example, go ahead on Udemy or whatever kind of platform you're using and use one of the many great instructors. For example, I used Thor Pedersen, I think it's how it's called. Like he combines 2 domains per class. So it's like 4 courses you have to take or 4 classes you have to take. And it's about like 30 hours of material. Plus he also provides like test questions and test exams. So it's a very, very good way, which really helped me to get through the exam. And I really recommend you also get some like sample questions, not like a brain dump, but sample questions. They don't need to be like the exact same questions on the exam, but give you an idea how those questions look like. So on what kind of level you have to answer questions and to what kind of detail, and how the scheme is for the questions. You know, every certification is different. And every certification has a different kind of style of questions. So does also CISSP. And having some sample questions really will help you to understand what you're getting into. I personally also recommend to start to write down content which is new to you and use it later on for reviewing it and like doing continuous learning. Like, I don't know, every evening you just go ahead and pick 1 domain or 2 domains and review everything you wrote down for those domains and try to memorize it and learn it. And I did this in the same way. And I wrote down, I believe, like 16 pages. Actually, there's 32 pages. So because it was double-sided. So 32 pages of stuff I wrote down, which I was not aware of before. And I used this kind of pages to learn for the sample questions, but also for the final exam. But as I said before, everyone is different. Some people do not like to write down stuff, or they don't even need this to write down stuff because they do not memorize well on writing down. But I know my learning profile is I learn pretty well when I write down stuff. So it was a no-brainer for me to do this. In the beginning of my recommendations, I said, like, take your time to walk through the material. But on the other hand, I also want to recommend you to not take breaks between the learnings. So keep it a constant learning curve, because it is so much material, and if you do not do it constantly, you will just lose a lot of knowledge. Not knowledge, but content from your brain too quickly because it's not written down in your deepest part of the brain. So keep it constant. Don't take too big breaks after learning sessions to keep the material pretty much fresh in your brain. And I personally used roughly about 2 months where I studied almost every day. So I would guess on average it took me like an hour and a half and 2 per day for the studying. So I was, let's say, like maybe a month, entire month, just going through the Udemy classes, and like another month for finishing sample questions, sample exams, learning the material, signing up for the exam, and getting pretty much excited about it. And yeah, so it was roughly like 2 months for me. Another tip I have, but it is somewhat maybe not applicable to everyone, but for me was a very good approach. And it's the approach of schedule the exam for the CISSP kind of early in the day, not too early, like not like 7 a.m. in the morning, but rather make it 10 a.m. than like 2 p.m. because you will actually need a lot of your brain during the exam. So try to arrange the schedule, or the exam, at the peak hours of your brain time, and prepare your brain to have a constant focus time for this one. And everyone is doing this differently, so that's why I give you my personal opinion in scheduling the exam early in the day. It really helped me because I had the feeling that I was able to focus through the entire exam. And the thing is, why I'm also mentioned like the focus time and the brain needs to be on point, is the time is usually not an issue on the exam. At least for me, I never had any exam right now that I took where I had time issues. And the CISSP was another one of those which I really did not have time pressure on. So I was able to mark questions where I wasn't sure about the answer, mark for review for later, and just walk through the entire question set and went back to the question where I was unsure and just turn on my brain and push hard and like, dear brain, please tell me what is in there that you know about this question. So, but also it is a very personal way of how you learn and how you approach exams. I already mentioned the stuff about once you got the exam, so congratulations. You passed the exam. You need to fulfill the 120 CPEs or units within 3 years to keep your certification in good standing. And another tip I have here for this post-certification phase is also here, keep it constant. So like do some units continuously over the year. Do not like stack it up till the end of the period, like where you have to do like 120 units in like 1 month. So this is not going to work. So spread it out across the 3 years and make it responsible and easy. Okay, let's talk about summary. So I gave you my opinion. I gave you some broad information about what the CISSP is about. And I gave you some tips and recommendations on how to tackle the exam and the post-exam phase. My personal opinion is that CISSP is a very great and well-recognized certification. So I highly recommend everyone working in the security field or who wants to keep working in the security field and maybe grow the position from maybe like an analyst or like a junior consultant to become like a senior consultant or an architect. Because it's very well recognized across the entire industry, and it will give you honestly a very good intro into many of the domains you may have never heard about before. And it's definitely one of the hard exams and a very contentful exam. So right after exam, I felt like, oh my God, this is not going well. There's so many questions I'm very doubtful about. But in the end, I passed with a pretty good score, where I'm really happy about. So yeah, it was definitely stressful. I had different exams, for example, the ITIL foundation exam, where I pretty much knew already, like, okay, I know those exact questions. there's no way I'm going to fail this. CISSP is definitely not going to be that easy for you. And for me, it was worth every single minute and moment I spent on learning and working towards the certification. So I only can recommend doing it, and it will mature your security know-how and prove it to the market. And it will, I'm pretty sure, I will even phrase it like that, it will have a positive impact on your future interviews, job interviews with other companies when you want to get into a new projects or new roles, because it is a widely accepted and recognized certification, and it's very often asked, just like the CISM. And I said it also in one of the other videos I have done, I do not recommend doing CISSP and CISM at the same time. Not even like in the same time, but in general, because they're interchangeable. Both will certify your knowledge in a pretty much same way and same standard. So either take the CISSP like I did it, or take the CISM, but do not take the other ones as well, because it will not give you more credibility. It is just on the same level, and it would only prove that you're capable of learning for a certification. So it will not prove anything new to the market and the industry. A no-brainer. Don't forget to pay the annual fee of $125 to be in a good standing. Do the units, the CPEs in a timely manner, and give yourself enough room to prepare for the exam. Do not stress yourself out. Do not push yourself to deadlines, but keep it a constant engagement. That's pretty much all I have for you as a summary. I hope those tips and recommendations will help you. Let me know if you are currently considering taking the CISSP, already currently learning for taking the exam, and also from the guys in the audience who already took the CISSP. Let me know what is your opinion about it. Did I have a different opinion about the path than you? Let me know. If you share my opinion, also please let me know. Always feels good to get some feedback from you guys. And I hope to see you in the upcoming videos. Take care and stay safe. Bye bye.